just a very, very special environment seeing all these women together in one place. So I just want to take a moment and acknowledge that. It makes me just so excited to look out and see you all together like this. On behalf of the Department of Athletics, I am so excited to welcome this amazing group we have in here to our inaugural PowHER On event to celebrate 50 years of Title IX and women's athletics. Today's event was designed to highlight strong women in leadership that we hope will directly impact and inspire each of you in the audience. I'm sure many of y'all have heard the phrase, empowered women, empower women. And we hope that this is the first of many events y'all experience that empower you to go after anything you could ever want and more. Before we begin, I want to have a few quick thank yous. If y'all can just hold your applause to the end, we'll do one round of applause for everyone at the end. First and foremost, Jade Hines-Clark, for everything that she did to put this together. I know that she's going to be up on this panel one day very soon, but until then, we appreciate everything you've been doing for us, Jade. Also, a huge shout out to our Spider Athletic Fund group, Catherine, Brandon, Abby, and Aaron. Y'all made so many special events like this possible for our athletics programs, and we can't thank you enough. Kevin and Sina Halleck, I know are around here somewhere. Thank you both so much. You have been two of our biggest supporters since day one, and we are so incredibly grateful to you and your support of our entire athletics community. So we're very, very thankful for y'all taking the time today. It means the world to us. John Hart is also back there. John and I have been talking about this event for at least 3 or 4 years, and COVID and some other things happened, and this is just a testament to his vision and support of women athletics. So John, thank you so much. And while this day is about our women, I did want to take a moment to thank, we have some very special men in here as well. President Halleck, I mentioned, and John. Ryan Colton, I know Aaron Roussel, our head women's basketball coach, is here. I saw Winston October walking around. Brandon's back there. John, y'all, your beliefs is why women is why these things are possible as well. And your companionship and partnerships are what make us all so strong. And so just thank you so much as you help us continue to move the needle to this place of inclusion and belonging. And then finally, to all of our female alums and our female student athletes, today is about y'all, and this is an event for you. So I can't wait for y'all to learn together, to hear from these guests, and for us to grow together. So let's have a big round of applause. So I was trying to think of the perfect way to set up these four, and it's very hard to do if you read their bios, but I thought of a very quick story I want to share that I think will lead into how incredible these women are. So early in my career, I had the opportunity to be one of the first female director of football operations in the country. And it's a pretty big deal. You're kind of part of the football staff. There was nobody else in the FBS world that had a female, and I was working at Miami of Ohio. We played the University of Florida first game. And Urban Meyer was their head coach. He's a little in a different place in his life right now. So back then, he was a very memorable guy. He was the head coach at Florida, very successful. And he came up to our head coach before the game and he said, "Why'd you bring your girlfriend on the field with you today?" And our head coach looked at him and he said, "I dare you to go tell her that." And so Mike did not tell me this at the time, but he walks back over the side and he's like, "Put my headset on for the first quarter." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "I don't wear it anyway," which is true. He doesn't. He just throws it on the ground. So I said, "All right, I'll put it on." So we had it on the first quarter, and Coach Meyer is so confused. He's like, "Why does this girl have a headset on? Like, what is she doing? What is happening?" And we actually played really, really well that game. We did not win, but we played Florida really, really tough. And he comes up to us after the game. He was like, "Who are you?" He was so confused. And I explained who I am, and he's like, "What?" Like, he's so confused. He's like, "That whole first quarter, I just looked at you. I was just scratching my head the whole first quarter. I had no idea like what was going on or how this person was doing what she was doing." He was like, "You had me all off my game for an entire quarter." And we just started laughing, and that kind of became our motto for the game. It's like, just make people scratch their heads, make them wonder, how did you do this? Like, how did you accomplish so much? Like, how did you do what you do? And I think when you look at these women up here today and you read their bios and you see the accomplishments and you see the things that they've done, it is a little, you scratch your head, you're like, how did they do all that? And what I'm excited for you to do and hear from them today is we're going to hear how they did all that, and how you all can do that too. And I think that's really what we're doing today. So I do want to give a brief bio read for each of them. I know y'all have the detailed one in your seats, but just so y'all know, if we go into Survivor, these are my 4 recruits, so I've already called them all. So, but I do want to tell y'all a little bit about these phenomenal women before we get started. Dr. Judy Hopkins graduated from the University of Richmond in 1974. She was a 3-sport athlete, y'all, so just think about that. Field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse. She earned her doctorate from the University of Virginia and studies the treatment and prevention of breast cancer and leukemia, genetics, and survivorship. She also served as the chairwoman of SCORE Cancer Care Delivery and multiple committees dedicated to cancer research. As if that's not enough, she owns a 110-acre farm in South Carolina, and I know that those are some of my personal favorite stories, and I'm looking forward to hearing them. Amber Nichols was a member of our women's basketball team and graduated from the University of Richmond in 2014 with a bachelor's degree in sociology. She went on to receive a master's degree in kinesiology with a concentration in sport management from Georgia. Amber is the general manager for the Capital City Go-Go and serves as one of 2 black female GMs in the NBA G League. She was also named to Forbes 30 Under 30 list for sports in 2022. Under Amber's leadership, the Go-Go reached the playoffs for the first time and set a franchise record of 28 wins during the past season. Meredith Ryan Reed graduated from the University of Richmond in 1998 with a Bachelor of Arts, and she played 2 sports, field hockey and lacrosse. She received her MBA from Cornell, and brand new job that she just took. She is currently the Chief Executive Officer at Versant Health, one of the nation's leading administrators of managed vision care. Under her leadership, she helps people across the country develop the wonders of sight by serving more than 38.5 million clients nationwide. Prior to her current role, she was the Senior Vice President and Head of MetLife's Financial and Wellness Engagement, where she oversaw benefits and growth and new product development in the financial and digital wellness space. Meredith also leads global innovation at MetLife, which works with investors and entrepreneurs to source partnerships and investment opportunities in digital solutions. And finally, Nikita Thomas graduated from Richmond in 2010 with a Bachelor of Arts and was also a member of our basketball team. Nikita became a police officer in Richmond for several years and before transitioning into the federal sector. She is now a special agent and criminal investigator for the U.S. Secret Service. She currently serves on the Presidential Protection Detail, where she conducts domestic and foreign advances and provides logistical support for the first and second families and other protectees. Let's have a big round of applause for these incredible. We hope that this group of female alums serves as an example of possibility and the belief we have in each of you in the audience today. I know that none of you have had an easy path up here, and we will get to that shortly, but each of y'all has forged ahead in your designated industry and become incredible leaders. I now want to call up Lizzie Blaylock from our women's cross-country team to introduce another incredible woman and partner to our the athletics department, our Dean of Jepson Leadership School. Izzy?
Hi. Sandra J. Pert obtained her PhD in economics from the University of Toronto and began her career at the University of William & Mary. She was a visiting scholar at George Mason University's Center for Study of Public Choice in 2004 and 5, and a fellow of the American Council on Education in 2005 and 6. In 2007, she became Dean of the University of Richmond's Jepson School of Leadership Studies and was awarded the E. Claiborne Robbins Distinguished Professorship in 2018. In the same year, she was elected to the Reform Club. She is past president of the International Adam Smith Society and the History of Economics Society, and since 2020, president of the Jepson Scholars Foundation. She has written or edited 11 books and more than 100 articles on leadership, ethics, economics, and the transition to modern economic thought. In her spare time, she enjoys running, albeit rather slowly. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Before I begin, I want to make sure you can hear me. Is this mic working well enough? Thank you. Well, thank you for that kind introduction. You will notice that I am not the athlete on this stage. I do run, but as I say, I do it rather slowly. It's wonderful to be here. It's terrific to see so many athletes in the audience. Let me just say that I have so much profound admiration for you being able to both be really good students and also athletes at a Division I school at the University of Richmond. I am as well profoundly in admiration for the panelists that we have here today. Not going to take a lot of time to sort of introduce them or reintroduce them, but really want to jump into a series of questions for them about this omnipresent phenomenon, leadership, that we in the School of Leadership Studies take a real interest in its connections to sport. There's something about the drive of an athlete, I think, that ties really tightly into the phenomenon of leadership. So let me, with that, just begin with a very simple question, but I think an important one for each of our panelists. I wonder if you could, and maybe we'll start at the end and just work our way down for this one. We don't have to, all four of us, answer every question, but at least for this one. Tell us about your journey from the University of Richmond, being an athlete and a student scholar here, to your current position, and how you became and took on leadership roles.
I started at the University of Richmond in 2010, graduated in 2014, and one thing that was super helpful to me in terms of where I am today was just the collaboration between the athletics department here and allowing student athletes to explore opportunities in just different areas of sport outside of playing. That was my first introduction into just being able to transition from athlete to just a career in professional sports, which I always aspired to do, but I'm just grateful to the university here for just, putting me on the pathway to be able to do that by exposing me to just different areas that I wasn't familiar with. So when I graduated from here, I went and got my master's at the University of Georgia, and my way into basketball wasn't, normal. I went through ticket sales, which is, most people in this side of the business will tell you that they dread ticket sales. I was no different. I don't really like asking people for money, so that wasn't my strong suit. But I moved to Sacramento, which is obviously in California, and started selling tickets for the Kings. And the other thing that the University of Richmond did for me, and one thing that you guys are going to be able to do today, is learn the power of networking. And it was actually a University of Richmond alum that really helped me get to the basketball side. Kevin Eastman is someone that I'm going to forever be grateful to for allowing me to, meet him, ask him questions, send him just things that he could critique in preparation for me to land my first opportunity on the basketball side. And so I met with him a couple times while I was selling tickets in Sacramento. Fast forward a couple months, the Wizards had a basketball operations internship open, and I reached out to Coach Eastman, and he made the connection to Tommy Shepard, who's currently the GM for the Washington Wizards, and the rest was basically history. So I would just say, you guys have an amazing network here at the University of Richmond that you should definitely take advantage of. I mean, you got four, sitting right here. And, I was mentioning to someone earlier is that our organization has a bunch of internships. I'm always looking for young women that are, ready to take the next step. And so I just, want you guys to make sure you're, tapping into your resources here, because if I hadn't done that, and if Richmond hadn't exposed me to just all these different areas, I probably wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now. So very grateful for that.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you. So, I am going to try to hold it together up here today, but I am just having a moment being on campus, seeing all of you, the Queen passing. It's been hours, this lady. And I would get nervous on stage. I usually hold it together, but I don't know. Looking at all of you guys and getting really excited about the future. So what I would say to all of you is, my mantra was, if I can make it 4 years playing a Division I sport, I can do anything. I also, did the schoolwork part too, which was the the other part. But I have carried that experience with me everywhere I go, including motherhood, which, by the way, is going to give you a run for your money. It's hard, but amazing, amazing, amazing. I would say to all of you, knowing what I know about you just because you're here, do not set your expectations too low of what you can do. And by the way, the real world is not as hard as everyone says it is. And if you work hard like you do here, if you stay curious, if you talk to the right people, Amber's right, you're going to be amazed at what you can do. And it's not going to happen as fast as you want it to. I have always struggled with patience. It is my worst virtue. But eventually it catches up with you and things start to happen faster than you ever believed they could. And I have no doubt in my mind you all are going to be successful beyond your wildest dreams, whatever those wildest dreams are. And for me, it all started here. You know that book, everything I learned in kindergarten. Everything I learned here. And it was that combination of experiences of the wonderful teachers, the people, the staff. From day one at Richmond, when I took the tour, I was sold. And I got into Cornell and Yale and a couple other places that are pretty good schools, but it was the way people treated me, it was the way I felt, it was the way I felt here that started to just change everything. It helped me feel confident, it helped me experience failure, a lot of failures. I mean, I came from a high school program that was really good, really competitive, Central League, Delco, some would know it, pretty tough sports town. Some Delco people in the room, raise your hands. You're not raising your hand. Yeah, yep, see it, I know, yeah, right? We're here. These people here are so much nicer, aren't they? Okay, so learned a lot of things at the University of Richmond, but being tough was one of them because we lost a lot. We played the top, 15 programs. We lost a lot more than we won. And who here likes losing? Yeah. You know the old saying, like, what do you like, winning more, or what do you hate more? Do you hate losing or you love winning more? Obviously, everyone hates to lose more than anything in the world. But it taught me so much, and it helped me build on every experience. So when I graduated, I was an English major, minor in journalism and leadership, so obviously my next step was clear. So I got to know the people in the Career Development Center. I talked to so many employers who were here. I didn't bother with the accounting firms. That was not my path. And I used those relationships. There was a wonderful relationship with Cigna. Supported the university. The first Cigna CEO actually had his funeral service on campus. And I remember leaving D Hall and seeing all of these cars parked up and down the street. I'm like, what's going on? What's the CEO of Cigna having a memorial service here? And that stuck with me. People were wonderful. I started in underwriting. That's how I learned the financials in the business. I was part of a training program. I would encourage all of you, if you can join a company that has a training program, it's a great way to start. I moved into sales. Unlike Amber, I do kind of like asking people for money. And if you can do that, again, you can do a lot of things and then develop people understanding. So then I moved into sales, sales management. Sales for me was a great way as a young person to put numbers next to my name. So you couldn't question me if I could deliver. If I could sell more than anybody else, I had credibility and I got respect. And that happened for me at a very young age. I was the sales rep of the year when I was 24 at Cigna. And that really opened a lot of doors for me. So look for those opportunities early. And then I got into management. I was at AIG. You guys might have read about that. From 2004 till 2009, so I was there during the financial crisis. I got my MBA when I was at AIG. They paid for it. I went to Cornell. That was a great experience. And then I worked for a legend in the industry. I worked for Marsh after that, but I worked for Hank Greenberg, who was 88 and didn't miss a beat or a day in the office. He was really an icon. And then I started at Met. But every experience built on the next, and I have never lost that sense of confidence that I can figure something out if I stick with it. I work hard enough and I get the help. I absolutely love team sports. I don't like to do anything by myself. Ask my family. Traveling's hard for me, but Netflix is a good thing. So I want to pass it on. I know I'm talking for way too long, but that's a little bit of my pat out here.
So much.
I'm not sure if I'm going to follow that. Wow. So I am definitely the old woman on the panel here. I think am the only one who was at the University of Richmond prior to Title IX. That doesn't mean Title IX hadn't been passed. It just means that the university had chosen at the time not to proceed with Title IX to the very last minute because they did not want to give up football scholarships. So the good and the bad of that is that I had the opportunity to play 3 separate sports here at the university. And the one thing about playing 3 separate sports, not only did I love it, but it helped me learn time management. And in most employment opportunities, you have to be able to manage time. And this was before computers. Computers back then involved rooms bigger than this one and punch cards. I have more computing power in this phone on my belt than we had in the entire university when I was here. But we didn't have the ability to look at a phone and have a calendar. So to try to manage 3 separate sports, being a pre-med major and getting all my labs in on time and still making practice and make my coach happy, that was a real education in time management. You also learned that back then we only had one place to eat. We didn't have all these wonderful nutrition stations that you all have and all these multiple places to buy food. So you learned very quickly that when you got to the dining hall, if you didn't get what food you wanted right away, you were not going to get it because it was going to be gone. So you learned to eat and eat quickly, which worked really well in medical school because you didn't have any time to eat. So learning how to eat and digest was a good thing. I was well trained at the University of Richmond, and it was, I've told many people, and I'll continue to tell them, it was the best 4 years of my life. I can relive those 4 years in a heartbeat. I met my husband here, and that was absolutely the best thing that's ever happened to me. I went from here to the University of Virginia, and I had no trouble at UVA with the training that I'd gotten here and the education I got here. And then went to Wake Forest, where I did my training. And I left Wake Forest when I got pregnant. I initially was on the faculty, got pregnant and decided I had too many bosses, couldn't deal with a dean, a section head, and a department head. Went to private practice, have been there ever since. About 20 years ago, I didn't learn how to say no when I was at the University of Richmond. And about 20 years ago, I got talked into being the CEO of a National Cancer Institute organization. This past grant cycle, we got a $28 million grant from the National Cancer Institute, and we do clinical research to try to find a cure for cancer, which I certainly hope that maybe before I retire, we will achieve. So you have a lot of opportunities in your 4 years here at the university, or maybe 5 years if you did a red shirt. Utilize it. Everyone up here will tell you that networking is critically important. The people that you meet, or the people that you know who know other people, that's the way you get around in life, and that's where you're going to succeed.
So I didn't want to go last. But no, it's fine. So just listening to these lovely ladies share their story, their journey, and we all have similar things in common. The one thing that has certainly, I think, stood out the most and sort of kind of haunted me a bit and reminded me of my own journey is the networking. So when I was at the university, I wanted to do computer science. I thought I was going to be sitting in someone's basement on a computer in my own cubicle, and that was going to be my career for 20 years. And then I learned quickly that playing a 2-semester sport in computer science with no background was the worst decision you could ever make. So I ended up having to change my major, so I graduated with history. And I still wanted to go federal, but I wasn't sure what to do. So At the time, I didn't know what sequestration was in the recession, and I just happened to graduate right when it happened. So no one was hiring, and I spent about my first 6 months out of school to just applications after applications, and no calls, no nothing, and I'm like, oh, what's going on? This is not what they said it was going to happen. So it was a bit stressful at first, and I said, you know what, okay, I'll start my law enforcement career, and I'll be a police officer. So wasn't quite what I wanted to do at the time, but I knew that that was a step in the door. So what was supposed to be 1 or 2 years turned into 5. But I learned a lot, and because of those networking experiences that I had as an officer, our chief of police at the time sent me to a law enforcement conference, and I was probably one of the most junior ones there. Had no idea what to expect, but I wanted to just, network and see what happened. So at the time, the deputy assistant director of human resources for the Secret Service was on the board for the organization running the conference. And I said, oh, she's a woman. I'll be her. So I said, okay, who I need to find to do that? And so I ended up coming in contact with someone else on the board. She was I think he just retired from the FBI, and she said, you want to meet her? I said, yeah. She said, okay. Took me over to meet her, and I introduced myself, told her, I said, I want to apply to the Secret Service. How do I do that? It's secret. Thank you for laughing. So I honestly had no idea how to apply to the Secret Service. Didn't even know you could apply. I thought it was, they had to come and find you. So we talked a little bit, and she said, you really want to apply? I said, yeah. She said, okay. Meet me at the time they had sort of kind of like similar to a career fair. It's like a vendors for law enforcement. And she said, meet me here at the entrance at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I said, okay. She said, I'll be right here. I said, okay. Got there 10 minutes early because I wanted to make an impression. And she showed up right at 9 o'clock, smiled, took me by the hand, and walked me directly to the Secret Service booth and said she wants to apply. 6 months later, here I am applying, or got the job for being a special agent for the Secret Service. And it was that experience, that networking experience, being able to not be afraid to introduce yourself, not being afraid to ask. Most of the ups and downs that we all navigate, a lot of it could probably be kind of navigated a little bit easier if we just be willing to ask. Sometimes the worst answer you can get is no. And because I asked, she took me by the hand, took me there, and I applied, and been there for almost 7 years now. So it's been a journey. I can't say that it was the path that I wanted to get to where I'm at, but it certainly didn't come without its support. Like Amber said, we graduated relatively recently. We had resources, but the resources that you all have today far supersede the things that we had at our disposal. You all have a plethora of resources, whether it's your coaches, whether it's the staff, whether it's your faculty or your professors, even the deans. At the time we had, of course, at the time we had Dean Landfair, was Dean of West Hampton College, and I never forget, she was at every women's basketball game with her daughters, every single one. But it was just that show of support and feeling comfortable enough to be able to go to your resources. Some of us come from places where you might be the first year, the first person in your family going to a 4-year college, and you have no idea how to navigate that. I didn't. But here I am, to share that story, and now my family, my sisters are like, but it is cool to be able to give back, being able to do the things like these ladies said, you not just with us, but everywhere you have resources, you just have to be willing to want to ask. That's my story.
That's wonderful. I've got my own. So just in terms of the kind of leadership lessons you just heard, we heard about being able to, not being afraid to ask. That's extremely important. Not saying no when you're invited to do something that you're not sure you really are able to do. Taking on new challenges and doing things like sales that you might not really like doing, but then doing them and doing them well. But now I'd like to just ask who'd ever like to chime in on this one. What additional, and I'll put aside the role of networking, so let's put that aside just for a moment. What additional insights can you give us into the characteristics of good leaders or good leadership?
I would say that before, you know, I became a leader, I had to learn how to follow. And being a good follower means like, you know, being a good listener, being supportive of, you know, your leadership, learning, asking questions. I would say, you know, those things help me in my role today because, you know, as a leader, if you've been a follower, then you know the people that are looking up to you and what they expect from their leader because you've been in that situation before. So I would say that, you know, those things help me become a really good leader, and then also just being compassionate. Get to know the people that you're actually leading on more than a baseline level, because if you can, and this comes from just like, you know, my players as well, but like if you know them and you know where they come from, and you know what they're dealing with every day, they have a family, what type of background they came from, what type of, you know, situation they grew up in, then you can get a lot more, you know, out of people because they trust you, because, you know, you took the effort to really get to know them. So I would say, you know, those are two aspects that really, really helped me was, you know, being compassionate, and also just, you know, taking the time to really learn from the leaders before me and learn how to be supportive of leaders, learn how to listen, learn how to ask questions, were some of the things that really, really helped me in the space that I'm in right now.
Yeah, I feel a little bit uncomfortable talking about leadership to the dean of the leadership school. This is like a test, right? So, I think that in order to be a good leader, you have to respect yourself, and you have to respect those that you lead, and you have to lead a life that leads the people that you are leading to respect you. I think that you have to be compassionate and have a servant's attitude toward the folks that you are leading. And I think you either have to be extraordinarily talented and be able to do all the things that you're asking your staff to do, or if you're not that talented, you have to at least recognize that you are not as talented as your staff, but that maybe you have a better job or you know how to manage your staff in order to be successful.
I love what Amber was saying too about being a good follower. And I think that's something that sometimes you forget. You know, you want to be a good producer, you want to do your job, but you're not thinking about the fact that your leader leads you. And I know as a leader, I get so much energy and motivation from my team and seeing what they do and how they make my job so much easier, that's always inspiring to me. I had an assignment recently, you know, you guys have probably heard of Agile. I sort of grew up in the software world, but it's a way of working where you do a series of sprints and you really carve up the work and the teams are really empowered, and it allows you to develop things more quickly. It's a very high level sort of summary of it. But one of the primary tenets of working in Agile is servant leadership. And I've heard a couple people, you know, consultants come in and try to explain that for the first time. And I'm like, I heard about that, you know, 26 years ago at Jepson. And it's a concept that really does apply. The more you do for your people, the more that you know them, they will run through walls for you. Another part of it, you know, is all about being authentic. If people think you're real, they'll trust you. And if they trust you, they'll give you that discretionary effort. And there are so many people who I think get self-conscious, or they think they're supposed to act a certain way because they're in a certain role, and they never get that connection or that followership. And I think it's so important. I say at lunch, my husband always says, nobody likes perfect. Perfect isn't attractive. Nobody likes that. So, you know, you have a certain quirk, you have a thing about yourself, a way you do something, and it's true to you. People will actually connect with that, and it's going to make it that much easier for you to connect with that group of people and lead them.
Thanks, Brent. Go ahead.
Well, so I don't really have anything different than what they've already said, so.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'll take this one on and you'll start.
Okay.
So everyone has mentioned networking. We know it's so important to our success and our well-being and sense of belonging and so on. But mentorship is also important to being successful and doing the right one. the difference between mentorship and networking, and how does one, from one's network, find a mentor?
It's actually a really good question to start. So the Secret Service actually started an internal mentorship program recently. And so it was, you had to apply, you could apply to either be a mentee or a mentor. And once you applied and the application process closed, the agency actually really did a good job in trying to match you with people who, for whatever reason, is good for you. Whether you're looking for a mentee or you're looking for a mentor. So that meant that obviously a special agent may be being a mentor to someone who's on our administrative staff. Someone who's in our administrative function might be a mentor to someone who is on the uniformed officer side. So I think it allowed the agency, even though it's the first time we've done it, I think it has allowed the agency to really see how you can bridge the gap between networking and mentorship. Granted, there are questions that you get that you probably can't answer because you're not necessarily familiar with the field itself, because my job might be different from your job, different from her job. But those resources, those networking opportunities that you've had, where it may be someone that you've met on a trip and they were part of the advance team, and it may be somebody who you're just there in a supporting role and they were one of the other personnel there to facilitate securing the site, and you just happen to have a conversation because you both were similar standing posts next to each other. But surprisingly enough, everyone has a role when it comes to the networking and the mentorship of others. It's not, this is mine and this is yours and this is just for us in a linear type mentality. It's for all of us. You never know when the information that you've learned or the information that you've taught someone else, how far that may go if you're just willing to share it.
That's wonderful, and I just want to connect it to what Amber said about followers and leaders. Mentors and mentees can sometimes change roles. Sometimes a mentee actually teaches a mentor, and that's all part of the leadership process. I do want to make sure that we have time for Q&A from the audience. So I've been told that there will be many questions that might emerge from our audience members, and I believe there's the ability to speak at a mic or have a microphone. So let's take a pause and see if we have some questions from the audience. Go ahead, Abs.
There's no secrets.
Go ahead. This fabulous source of information here.
Only bad outcome is if no one asks the question.
Thank you very much.
Tell us who you are and your sport.
I'm Logan. I'm on the soccer team. I'm a junior. Did any of you guys have any internships within your 4 years that kind of made you realize, oh, this is the career I want to go into, or bad experiences, a good experience? Otherwise, for
I'll just give you a moment of truth. I didn't have one single good internship. So my, like working at the cosmetic center doesn't count. I actually did have one internship, and it was a cryogenic company in North Philly. And it was because one of our neighbors worked there. And I literally worked off of a factory floor, and they were making manifolds that converted liquid gas into air gas. And it was a pretty tough neighborhood, and the people who worked there were literally welders. And then there were like 4 people in the office that had purchasing, myself, I was in charge of sales and marketing, and ordering lunch, and a couple other assignments. And I quickly learned that's not gonna be for me. But what I did learn was how a small company works, and how everyone has to play a role and take on all the different tasks. And I actually was able to turn that into a story to get my real job at Cigna. So what I would say is great if you get the right internship, and if you're in the right program and it's something you're interested in. I think the options are so much better and more organized than they were when I was going through the process. But whatever it is, make it yours, make it your story, and figure out how you're going to talk about it and what you're going to learn from it. So, use your resources here, and please pick much more wisely than I did. But even if you're in something that doesn't seem like a fit for you, just figure out, what am I learning? What am I going to take with me, and how do I turn this into a story that shows that I am resilient or organized or creative, because it'll help you get into the place you want to get into.
Are there other questions? Yes, go.
I'm Maddie, I'm a senior on Swim and Dive, and I was just wondering, how do you guys manage work-life balance? Obviously, you're all very successful in your careers, but also, you know, there's other things in life, like not working, family, stuff like that. So how do you guys kind of manage that balance?
So I would say that one of the things that you have to accept or understand is what you can and cannot do within whatever profession you choose to pursue. So in medicine, you have the option of being in academics, or you have the option of being in private practice. And I wanted to have a child, which I might add, when I went to medical school, I had to certify when I went to the University of Virginia, because my husband and I were married, we met here at the University of Richmond. We had to certify we would not have children. Needless to say, I went back on that. So I have carefully chosen my career path based on the things that I wanted to do in life. I wanted to have a child, so I left academics. I went into a situation where I had control of my schedule. I was very blessed to be able to coach my son during school. I saw patients before and after practices. I worked late at night. I made choices. And currently, I'm certainly old enough to retire, but I happen to enjoy seeing patients. So I work seeing patients 3 days a week. I manage that NCI group that I talked about a couple days a week while I'm at my farm. And so I work at my farm because it's the way I relax and do things on Zoom and telephone and all the different ways that you can go, and try not to travel if I can avoid it. The good thing about being a woman is that you can make all the decisions you want, and you can do anything you want as long as you just ask and plan.
I love that. So for me, I love this question, especially for this audience. So I'll tell you, first and foremost, there's never a perfect time to have a child. And by the way, you can't actually totally control that process. I mean, there's parts of it you can. But there are other parts of it that it's not like, you know what, I would like to have a baby. I would like to become pregnant on November 1st and deliver the baby in the late summer. So it just sometimes doesn't work that way. So let me just lay that expectation first. And second, the most important thing you have to do is pick the right partner. It is absolutely a team sport, and you have to have the right support around you. If you don't get that part right, it's exponentially more difficult. And I was fortunate enough to pick the right partner. My husband is amazing. He and I, you know, many times did not look like we were nailing it on the parenting front, especially around like 2 a.m. But we stuck with it. We gave each other a lot of leeway. We figured it out. And for me, it has been the best thing I've ever done by far. But I think this experience at Richmond prepared me for it. I mean, I know what it's like to be sleep deprived. So do you guys. You know, you get through it. You know you can do it. You dig deep and you get through it. And it gets easier. I think having really that network, understanding where you are and knowing it does get better and it gets easier, you just have to take it in smaller increments. I think one thing I wanted to share with all of you when I was in your chair, I was like, how am I gonna figure out the next 4 years? What do I have to do next? You know, and I was always so cognizant that every decision felt extremely consequential. And some of them are, but many of them aren't. You can change your mind on certain things. You can pivot. You can decide you might not be in the right job and start to make a change. You have control over that. So sometimes I think people waste like 3 years not making a decision as opposed to maybe making a decision they want to change. So I would just encourage you to be a little zen-like about it. Know that you can't control all of it, but you do have a chance to sort of steer your way through it. But get that partner
honestly say just, plan your day. Like, what I do is, how many of you guys use your do not disturb function on your iPhones? That's like my life. As a GM, agents do not care when they call you. They will call you at 11 o'clock. They will call you at 3 a.m. They will call you at 5 a.m. So what I do is I set my do not disturb every night from about 9 until 8:30 the next morning. And I don't look at my phone. It's, my time to really decompress from work, decompress from the day. Student athletes, like, your day is tough. Like, you might have gotten a bad grade on a test. Your teammate might be annoying you. Your coach might be annoying you. Family, something might be going on with family. So it's really important to take, time for yourself. And I do things that I enjoy, during that time. I watch Grey's Anatomy. I'll watch, shows that, I really, really like. HGTV is, big for me. So that's my thing. I definitely decompress away from my day. And the other thing that I do really, like, work-life balance oriented is, I'm really big on mental health. I do therapy bi-weekly. It's important. It's something that I try to get my athletes to adopt. We actually hired a full-time therapist with my team because, you are young women and you guys will be trailblazers in your own right as you continue to grow in whatever journey that you want to. And with that comes a lot, being the only female in a room full of, not just men, but men that are, years older than you is very tough. Learning how to articulate and speak up in those scenarios is very tough. So that's something that I do is, I have therapy sessions with my therapist every day and just try to kind of decompress from all that, my job brings me, so.
So work-life balance is actually a continuous topic with the Secret Service. As people can imagine, regardless if you're an agent or part of the uniformed officer division, the work-life balance is strenuous at times. Some years are more stressful than others, wait for election years. But just listening to everyone's, the way that they approach work-life balance, it made me consider myself. And the first thought I had was, don't compare yourself to someone else. What your work-life balance looks like may not be what mine is. She's married with kids, and she might have a partner who just does not support the fact that you're traveling every other week, or you think you're gonna have a day off, and then the trip drops, and they're like, hey, put us still here, and you're like, oh, guess I gotta go. Doesn't always work out at home, but for someone like myself, like my partner's in the U.S. Army, and she's like, oh, where we're going next? Like, I can go too. Like, so it just varies from person to person. You just have to find what works for you, and don't compare yourself, your home life, your personal life, to other people. But I would also go and say, try not to complain to other people too about your problems, because you never know who is going through worse stuff than you, and still being able to find that balance. You just never know. So try to be compassionate, as Amber said, but at the same time, understand that your journey is your journey alone. If you can make it work for you, it doesn't really matter if anyone else agrees with it. As long as it works for you in your home, that's all that matters.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and I saw someone with a hand up right near the front here. Yes.
Sorry, you had your hand raised.
Put your hand up again.
Hi, my name is Nina. I run track, and I was just wondering when, you knew personally, what you wanted to do. When you were as a freshman, I don't really know what exactly I want to major in and stuff like that. So was there ever a moment where you realized I'm either not in the right place, or was there ever I know now what I want to do? Were you kind of?
Sorry.
I guess. I think that's probably.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to jump the gun, but I will honestly say it's okay if you change your mind. I just knew I had this mindset of what I was going to do and did a complete 180 of that. So it happens. The other part of it too is don't sell yourself short. like I forget who said it, but someone said it earlier, it's like, don't lowball yourself. If you think that, oh, because I have this major or I don't have this experience, it's not going to be applicable to this job. The Secret Service alone is probably one of the most diverse agencies in the country. We have people who have master's degrees in finance. We had an exercise physiologist for NASA. We thought he was an astronaut for quite a while. You know, we have people who have PhDs in mathematics, and you know, they're as smart as Albert Einstein, but for some reason they want to be a Secret Service agent. You know, it's just, you just have such a plethora of opportunities. You know, don't feel like because you have a specific major or a specific degree that you're only limited to a specific career field because someone told you to. At the end of the day, like I said, if you ask, the worst answer you'll get is no. You'll just never know where the choices that you decide to make now, regardless of how small, may end up blossoming and be the best decision you ever made in your life.
Very briefly.
Ever since I was a little girl, I wanted to be in insurance. Just kidding. What I can say is I felt that confusion many times, but the truth was I wanted to be in a competitive environment. I wanted to make money. There was no trust fund coming my way. I wanted to pay off my debt. When I was at school, I had an on-campus job, I had a babysitting job, I had a quarter scholarship, then I had a half scholarship. That was always really important to me, and life is expensive. And there's a lot of things I want to enjoy, and I want to feel secure. Financial wellness, financial health is really important to me, and I would encourage all of you to think really carefully about that as you leave school. There are really a lot of ways to get in trouble quickly. Please download the Upwise app. It is free. It is the app that we developed at MetLife. This is not a sale. You literally get nothing out of it. And it will help you with all of these topics like debt and savings and spending and all of those things that nobody helped me with when I graduated. And it is so easy to get yourself in trouble quickly, and then you just have to work that much harder. But I think that's something that, you know, I don't know how much you all think about it, talk about it. Your generation's much more aware than mine was. A lot of people don't want to talk about money, but to me, that's always been a really powerful motivator because I want to have the freedom to help the people and the things that I want to help and that I care about. And you have to have a plan around that. So that's one thing I didn't want to leave here without saying out loud. This is something that a lot of people don't talk about. But you all have the power to put yourselves on the right track.
Thank you. Thanks so much. So Amber, Meredith, Judy, Nikita, you have had the benefit of so much wisdom. Can you join me in a round of applause?
Thank you all so much. That was fantastic. I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Jade, you have some gifts to hand to our panelists here. So if we can have one more big round of applause for our panelists. And then I'd like to call Brandon Hodges to come up here. We have one quick announcement, and I just want to review some logistics. As soon as we conclude today, y'all, there is some delightful food over here for y'all. I know some of you have to rush off to practice, but for those of you that can stay and join in the power of networking, we really, really encourage you all to do that. So, final quick announcement for y'all. Standing up here with me today is Brandon Hodgins. He's our new Associate Athletic Director for Development. And on behalf of the Department of Athletics, we would like to announce that as part of our Power On and our year-long celebration of Title IX, we will be hosting our very first Women Athletics Giving Week this October. It will be the October 3rd through the 7th, and the funds will go directly toward opportunities like today, experiential and scholarship opportunities for our female student athletes, all of you, and direct support for all of your teams. We have Siri, I'll tell you again. All right, Siri. That was fantastic. In addition to this Giving Week, y'all, which is a huge deal, it's the first one we've ever done for our female athletes, and we're so excited to continue to support y'all. But we want to take a moment and send a huge thank you to our panelist and alum, Dr. Judy Hopkins, and her husband, who generously provided a $50K match gift to inspire others to join their giving. Thanksgiving week serves as a reminder that this event is only the beginning for our female athletes, and we look forward to creating many more special opportunities for current and former athletes to come together so that we can go out and change the world. Jade and I have been tossing the concept of Spider Women around for quite some time now, because we truly believe that as a student athlete, y'all are superheroes. I look forward to each of you coming back here in 20, 30, 40 years and sitting on a panel like this and inspiring the next generation of women. This group of female student athletes in the room today has continued to rise above with positivity and incredible work ethic, and we're so proud of each and every one of you sitting here today. So today is just step one of your journey, and we want to thank you all for attending and invite you to spend the remaining time eating good food, connecting, learning, and growing together. Thank you all so much. Go Spiders. Go eat. Have fun.
Pepper.